trucks. There is no expectancy to privacy with a license plate. They're issued and owned by the state of Ohio. A lot of people don't know that. We get a lot of grief from people because they want to know, why did you run my plate? The simple answer from a police officer, especially like those young guys that were here earlier, is because I can. I can run a license plate on the back of a vehicle anytime I want. I don't need a reason. But if you have a license plate and you give it to me, I can find out who that comes back to, and are all these trucks being registered to a company, whether it's phony or legit, or are they being registered to people? If it's people, now we have evidence. Now there's multiple individuals who are apparently residing at that dwelling, and we can start to build the case.
So basically get the license plates and.
Anything you can get your hands on.
And
take it.
pictures and all that, because we complain about one of the government houses down from us. They park in the road, and the lady, it's supposed to be a lady and a family down there, and there's 2 motorcycles, I think there's a Mercedes out there, and 3, or it looks like a used car lot, and we asked Mike about it, and he said that they're all registered in this lady's name. But there's a lot of people living in that house too, so the same thing would go with that, the license plates and, okay.
Can you give us that address as well?
Is that a CMHA house or private ownership, section 8?
I'm not really sure.
Can you give us an address?
I don't think
It's
CMHA
on the
owns
corner
that
of,
house. I think it's a voucher.
yeah, I'll get those addresses down and, you know, I want to
Specifically,
it's on the corner of
specifically that one?
Columbia and Second is where it's at. We complain because there's too many cars, and like, we grew up in that neighborhood and we had to park our cars on the side of the road with 2 wheels off, facing the way the traffic was running. These people were parking all over the place with, you know, out on the road with cars the wrong way. Now, they have to kind of aim them in the right direction now, but like when the snow plows run and stuff, there's cars all over out there and everything. It's like I said, it's like a used car lot.
So that one specifically, I'm on the board of Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority, so I'd be interested in that one specifically because
Because the number of
if it's
vehicles
one of our
that are out
vouchers,
there.
I'd like to look into it from our side.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry to the board and ladies, ma'am, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just have a question. Have we all heard the 3 words that are very connected to this situation? And so, I'd like to just repeat them. It's zoning, drugs, and derelict houses. Why doesn't the township put together a committee to reevaluate our zoning? Because it sounds like to me, if the zoning were sharper, harder, and more enforced, it would be driving out this derelict people, and then the township could move on with business. But it sounds like we need some much tougher teeth zoning, and I would never ever ask a teenager to write down license plates numbers. That's an undercover agent that needs to do that. These people, these drug people are dangerous.
I want to be clear, I was not asking.
I know you weren't, but kind of the way it was heard, it kind of hard, and it sounds like the neighbors are doing what they can, but, you know, if we want to move the drugs out of our communities, we are going to have to get a lot tougher. And we may have to spend some money.
Thank you.
Anyone else in regard to that issue? I think we know direction.
I just like to say, if we don't do anything, it's just gonna get worse, because it wasn't this bad when I was a little kid, and you'd see stuff like this. I've lived here a long time with her, and it's like, you saw little stuff, but now it's gotten like the food out of hand. And I know she's worried about me seeing everything, but I've already saw it all. Like, you can't really, you know, there's nothing to hide me from. Now it's like, my little sister, she's 5. I want her to grow up in a safe community where she doesn't have to look outside her window and see somebody laying in the middle of the street when she goes to get on the bus and half dead, you know?
Understood. Agree with you. Greg, next on the,
So I had Gail Warner, okay. We had Gracie. So we're down to Standish Fortin.
While I'm doing this, Joshua Standish Fortin, 12137 McCauley Road, north section of the township. You mentioned a committee for tougher zoning. There's actually a contract with a company called Jacobs Engineering that was supposed to meet according to the agreement that the township has with a land board. But Mr. Holbert said that that entity has not met. These are just for reference. Forgive me, I'm gonna correct this too.
Yeah.
I thought
That was from an earlier board meeting.
Oh.
Mr. Whedon was chair of one board, and I get the chair for these meetings.
It's my fault.
Oh, we got a lot to do. Okay, hopefully, the trustees will reconsider, charging the residents that pay the cable tax, a total of 5% of their bill, and reduce that to 3%, as I believe the city of Blue Ash has, since the township is not providing video coverage as they once did. I have a camera here that I will be uploading. I'd be more than happy to take that 2% or negotiate some deal, but you guys can get back to me on that one. Podium, this is okay, better, I appreciate that, probably Greg. There is another podium at the community room at the Schuler Center, which is very nice, and I would hope that you would think the residents deserve that as well in this forum. I'll wait to hear from you guys about that.
We're gonna try this and see how this works out right now.
Okay.
And the residents actually use it, the residents use it up at Beckville, at the other
Yeah.
facilities, so.
We use it here too, I'm sure. The water fountain, I do not believe has been fixed. With some of these long meetings, especially, I think there's gonna be some really long meetings next week. That's been requested for over a month, and nothing has been done. I know you guys probably get bottled water here from the back, but the residents would appreciate being able to just have some water rather than going into the bathroom. Consulting contracts. This is a question, I guess, for you, Mr. Porter. Does the township obtain multiple bids on all township projects with consultants?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends on the size of the contract. That's all set by statute. Doug Miller, our legal counsel, gives us advice when we have to get multiple bids or requests for proposal, RFPs.
So do you know what dollar amount above?
I think it's $50,000.
I think it's 70 now.
70.
About 70.
Okay.
Above 70
So
consultant
it's
selection.
above 70,000 and 3 bids are required, I guess?
Not 3 bids, consultant selection process. You could get anywhere from 1 to infinite number of bids. And the board selects who they feel is the best consultant for the job.
Okay, but I'm saying over 70, they have to get multiple bids?
They have to go through consultant selection. It doesn't necessarily mean multiple bids will be received. They have to put it out for bid.
Sometimes even with huge road projects, $1 million things, we only get one bid. So it doesn't always have to be multiple bids.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand the process the township has in place. I also wanted to go over the meeting schedule. The township trustees only have one evening trustee meeting per a month now, correct?
That's correct.
And that was voted upon by the current trustees,
That's correct.
all 3.
Yes.
So there's been a 25% decrease in the number of public meetings, correct?
Mathematically, you're correct.
And there's been a 50% decrease in the number of meetings that citizens can speak at, correct? So citizens can speak at the workshop?
They have spoken on the subject that we're talking
Citizens can
about.
speak at the workshop,
Okay. Understand?
on relevant issues, yes.
With the decrease of 25%, have the trustees' compensation been reduced by 25%?
Trustees' compensation
Compensation
is set by statute.
state law.
Set by statute, okay,
Yes.
all right. Another question I have is parks meetings. I brought up several requests for previous parks meetings. They're continually canceled. I have many questions that I've requested, specifically youth sports programs. Maybe if we had something like youth sports programs, we'd have a safer community. We would actually be deemed a community Sycamore Township didn't even rank in the top 50 communities in Cincinnati. This is something that I take seriously, specifically myself, because I have children, and there is no parks meeting. There is no recreation meeting to address this. Is there any guidance as far as if Parks is going to meet, or is it being disbanded?
No, it's not being disbanded. The overall responsibility for parks is in the maintenance department. The Parks and Recreation Committee that has been meeting is primarily festival related.
So there is a formal committee.
It's an ad hoc committee.
It's an ad hoc
not a
committee, yeah.
formal committee.
Okay. I used to run an event somewhat similar to the festival, and we would always have a meeting post-event to review the event. Parks has not done this. Parks also does not have a budget for their event. It just seems very odd, and I think this falls under your responsibility, Mr. Porter, that there are meetings, that there are minutes, that there are agendas, that there are budgets. I'm just wondering who is watching what's going on with Parks and Recs, if anybody?
From a budget standpoint, the Parks and Recreation Director and in conjunction with the superintendent are responsible for the budgets there.
Well, the township does not program events. We provide fields. The only event
Right.
that the township programs is the festival.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And I'll try to be quick, but this has been something that you guys actually touched upon. I handed you all my property tax summary. I need to clear up some inaccuracies that could be legally defined, technically be considered as slander. They were stated about me by a gentleman named Mr. John Abraham, who I do not believe is here, at the August 2nd, 2018 trustee meeting, which I was unable to attend. For the record, I have never met Mr. Abraham, and I'm sure he's a very nice man, but regardless, I need to correct his misstatements. In business, accuracy is key was a very accurate statement Mr. Abraham made. I hope he does not take my words the wrong way if he's listening, but my name and reputation is sacred to me. His first misstatement. Our HOA, and I live on Macaulay, and I'm in Macaulay Woods HOA. Our Macaulay Woods HOA does not pay for the streetlights. Citizens pay for the streetlights. Misstatement number 2. Mr. Abraham stated that I promised to come forth with a solution. I am a citizen who has brought a problem to my elected officials who are paid to administer the township. I am not paid to bring a solution. Though if you guys are throwing around consulting dollars and contracts, I would be happy to draw one up for the hours I've spent on it. Citizens in my HOA have paid over $100,000 in the last 20 years for 9 streetlights. Although safety is relatively priceless, this price is not reasonable. In fact, it's so unreasonable, the state of Ohio instructed Ohio municipalities not to enter in additional agreements about 15 years ago. Duke even told me this after I brought up the absurd costs. Duke had to tell me this. Why did the state of Ohio say this? Because it's a bad deal for the citizens, obviously, $100,000 for 9 streetlights in 20 years. This communication was sent to Sycamore Township, yet residents did not hear it and probably have not heard it. But sure, let me volunteer and spend my time to do the administrator's job. I do not consider a solution anything that would raise my taxes, is what Mr. Abraham said, and I concur. Any good business should recognize that for over 15 years, this problem has existed. Sadly, my wife did not look closer at our property tax bill, which is what I provided you. You can see the assessed line, and it shows that we pay $90 a year. There are 54 houses in our community, which is about $4,900 a year. This has been going on for 22 years. It's over almost $110,000 we've paid. This is the agreement you signed, Mr. Porter, in 1996. Is there another solution? Yes, there is. I was told by Duke, after being directed there by the township employees, because they could not get a hold of anyone at Duke evidently. I guess my phone works better than the township phones. That any agreement would have to be forwarded to the township. So I worked with Duke. I got a proposal. It's not my duty, but I got a proposal because it's my tax dollars, my fees, whatever, that are being wasted. And that was over a month ago. The proposal has a 90-day expiration. Sounds like you ladies are familiar with this process. In using a freedom of information request, I got the proposal from Sycamore Township. I still have not heard from Mr. Porter or Mr. Bickford regarding this. Mr. Porter, do you remember any of these items I brought up on this subject?
Mr. Ford, let me talk to you about street lighting, because I'm pretty familiar with it. A street light is, the township has nothing to do with putting in street lights. It's all done by Duke. It's all citizen generated, so 51% of the residents of your street lighting district had to come to us with a petition signed by over 51% for us to even get involved.
I have copies of that.
Okay, and your wife signed it,
We
so
didn't
I
live
guess
there.
she owns
We
your
didn't-
property.
We didn't live there at the time. But yes, the residents did sign that back in
They
1996.
signed the petition and asked me to contact Duke, find how much it would cost, and we had a hearing here, 22 years ago or whatever it was, and the trustees at the time, after input from your neighbors, and they had gotten a notice and saw how much it was gonna cost, told us to go ahead and put in the streetlights and assess their property. If they didn't want it, or they didn't want streetlights, the trustees aren't gonna do it. We have no desire to put streetlights in if the neighbors don't want it, and there are lots of neighborhoods that don't want streetlights. So it's all driven by the residents. I'm not gonna go into Highpoint, for example, and say, you have to have streetlights. If they want streetlights, and they've tried to do it, I'm familiar with the process that Highpoint did. They tried to get streetlights. If they want them, I'm all for